if I told you that one of the most popular superfoods sitting in your kitchen right now could quietly raise your stroke risk? Not over years, but in a matter of hours. Most people eat this vegetable believing they are doing something wonderful for their health. They add it to smoothies, salads, and soups. Health influencers celebrate it. Grocery stores put it on display like it is a prize. And yet, for millions of people with a specific hidden condition, eating too much of this vegetable on the wrong day could trigger a dangerous rise in blood pressure and even contribute to a sudden stroke. The vegetable we are talking about is spinach, and more specifically, the broader category of high vitamin K and high oxalate leafy greens. Before you panic and throw your salad in the trash, please keep watching. The truth is far more nuanced, and understanding it could genuinely protect your life. Why this matters: stroke is one of the leading causes of death and long-term disability worldwide. Every 40 seconds, someone in the United States alone has a stroke. The tragedy is that many strokes are preventable, and a significant number of them are directly linked to diet and medication interactions that most people are never warned about. Doctors and pharmacists do their best, but the reality is that during a short appointment, not every dietary warning makes it into the conversation. And when patients read that leafy greens are healthy, which they are for most people, they naturally eat more of them. The problem arises when certain vegetables interact with blood-thinning medications, or when they are consumed in extreme quantities that disrupt the body's delicate internal chemistry. This is the conversation that needs to happen, and it needs to happen now. The science behind vitamin K and blood thinners. To understand why spinach and other dark leafy greens can be dangerous for certain people, you need to understand the role of vitamin K in the body. Vitamin K is a fat-soluble nutrient that plays an essential role in blood clotting. Without it, even a small cut would bleed indefinitely. The body relies on vitamin K to activate a group of proteins that form clots and stop bleeding. This is normally a beautiful system, until someone is taking a blood-thinning medication called warfarin, also known by the brand name Coumadin. Warfarin is one of the most commonly prescribed medications in the world. It is given to patients with atrial fibrillation, deep vein thrombosis, mechanical heart valves, and those who have already suffered a stroke or are at high risk of one. Warfarin works by blocking the action of vitamin K in the body, essentially preventing the blood from clotting too aggressively. For these patients, blood clots are the enemy, and warfarin is their first line of defense. Here is where the danger enters. When a person on warfarin suddenly eats a large amount of spinach, kale, Swiss chard, collard greens, or any other high vitamin K vegetable, the body receives a sudden surge of the very compound that warfarin is trying to suppress. This creates a direct chemical conflict inside the bloodstream. The warfarin's effectiveness is rapidly undermined. Within just a few hours, the blood can begin to clot more aggressively than intended. An abnormal clot that forms in a blood vessel leading to the brain is called a thrombotic stroke, and it can happen with shocking speed. This is not a theoretical risk. Studies published in clinical cardiology and pharmacology journals have documented cases where patients on stable warfarin therapy experience dangerous swings in their INR levels, the measurement of how well their blood is clotting, simply because they significantly increase their leafy green intake. One bowl of spinach salad is rarely a problem, but a green smoothie containing 4 to 6 cups of raw spinach on top of a green salad at lunch and sautéed kale at dinner. That is a level of vitamin K exposure that can send an anticoagulated patient's clotting levels into dangerous territory overnight. The oxalate problem and kidney blood pressure connection. The vitamin K issue is the most well-known concern, but there is a second mechanism that rarely gets discussed in popular health media. Spinach and several other leafy greens are extremely high in oxalic acid, also called oxalates. Oxalates are naturally occurring compounds that the body normally processes and eliminates through the kidneys. In healthy people with normal kidney function and adequate hydration, dietary oxalates are simply flushed out of the system. But in people with compromised kidney function, a history of kidney stones, or those who are chronically dehydrated, something different happens. When oxalates accumulate in the kidneys, they bind with calcium to form calcium oxalate crystals. Over time and in large amounts, these crystals damage the delicate filtering structures of the kidneys, Who is most at risk? The most critical thing to understand is that this is not a story about spinach being bad for everyone. For the vast majority of healthy adults, spinach and kale are extraordinarily nutritious foods that support heart health, reduce inflammation, and lower overall stroke risk. The risk is concentrated in specific groups. If you are currently taking warfarin or any vitamin K antagonist blood thinner, you need to be extremely consistent about how much vitamin K you consume. Not necessarily low, but consistent and steady, so your doctor can calibrate your dose accordingly. Sudden large increases or decreases in leafy green intake are what cause dangerous swings. If you have been diagnosed with chronic kidney disease, even in an early stage, your doctor may already have discussed limiting high oxalate foods. If you have a history of kidney stones, the same caution applies. And if you are elderly, living alone, or not regularly monitored by a physician, you may be taking medications that interact with your diet without even knowing it. This is precisely why regular blood work and honest conversations with your doctor about what you are eating are so important. Natural remedies and safer alternatives. If you love leafy greens and want to keep them as a central part of your diet, which you absolutely should, there are ways to do so safely. First, cooking spinach significantly reduces its oxalate content. Boiling spinach and discarding the water can remove up to 50% of the oxalates. Lightly steaming it retains more nutrients while still reducing the oxalate load compared to raw consumption in large quantities. Second, if you are on blood thinners, aim for a consistent daily intake of vitamin K rather than wild swings between very high and very low. The goal is not to avoid these vegetables entirely, but to eat roughly the same amount each day so your medication can be dosed accurately. Work with your healthcare provider to find the right balance that keeps both your nutrition and your anticoagulation therapy on track. Third, hydration is your best defense against oxalate buildup in the kidneys. Drinking adequate water throughout the day, typically 2 to 3 liters for most adults, helps flush oxalates before they can accumulate. Adding calcium-rich foods to meals that contain high oxalate vegetables also helps, because when calcium and oxalates bind in the gut rather than in the kidneys, the crystal formation becomes far less dangerous and is simply eliminated through the stool. What doctors are saying. Medical professionals are not telling people to stop eating vegetables. That would be nutritional malpractice. What they are emphasizing more strongly than ever is the importance of individualized nutrition. The understanding that what is a superfood for one person may be a risk factor for another, depending on their medical history, medications, and kidney health. The growing popularity of green smoothies and plant-based diets has brought this issue into sharper focus. When a person goes from eating minimal vegetables to consuming massive quantities of raw greens overnight, which happens frequently in January health kicks or after watching a wellness documentary, the sudden dietary shift can have real physiological consequences that their doctor needs to know about. If you have recently changed your diet significantly, especially by dramatically increasing your leafy green intake, and you are on any prescription medication, call your doctor. It is a 5-minute conversation that could prevent a life-altering event. Motivational conclusion. Here is the empowering truth in all of this. You now know something that most people do not. You understand that health is not about blindly following trends or eating any single food in unlimited quantities just because it carries a healthy label. Real health is about understanding your own body, your own medical history, and the specific interactions that apply to your life. Eating well is a deeply personal act, and it deserves personalized guidance. Keep eating your vegetables. Keep choosing whole foods over processed ones. Keep building a lifestyle centered on nourishment. But do it with knowledge, do it with intention, and do it in partnership with the people who are medically equipped to help you thrive. Your brain, your heart, and your future self are counting on you to stay informed. And today, you just took a powerful step in that direction.